Hello everyone, so today I want to talk about how not to become a ghost. Now, the reason and way ghosts are created are basically because of our attachments in life. Now, the ego and the spirit and soul are all different things. The ego is that part of ourselves that identifies with the materialistic bondage to our body and materialism with everything around us, as far as what we desire, what we crave, and what we are attached to when it comes to even ideology or a particular family or a set of traditions handed down that comprise a culture. Um, Now, the ego gets attached to these things that allow us to be an individual human being, that allow us to exist in this world with an identity. And we do that through the ego. And when one becomes a ghost, it's not the soul or spirit being bound, it's the ego not allowing itself to merge back into the grander understanding of that soul and the source. Now, the spirit to me is life force, prana, and the soul is that recording device, that eternal device, that eternal being that cannot be destroyed. That every soul is basically a part of the same, but isolated, or at least the illusion of isolation exists because of delusion and Maya. Maya being illusion in a spiritual level. Now, when we live a life that is very much attached to material, or this particular identity that our soul finds itself in, then the ego, it's very hard for it to let go. It's very hard for it to move on past these attachments. And especially if there's a lot of hate in your life, you are also attached to that hatred, and that keeps you here on this earth because those things do not exist in higher realms in the same way they exist in this material existence. Now, ghosts don't have to necessarily be ones that are angry or hateful or just really materialistic and want to, keep on having these desires and fears and attachments. Attachments, yes. Ghosts are always, and they always have a level of attachment. If one is just really attached to their family, they love their family so much that their ego just can't let go, there is a certain spiritual power attached to egos, whether they make good or bad ghosts, depending on how that person lived. A good ghost might be an ego that was just very loving towards their family, but very attached to their family in the context of the individual that they were. Not necessarily love for everything, but love for their particular family. So a ghost can stick around because of that, and usually it's much more pleasant experience-wise for a ghost to exist just because of love, but it also still has that level of attachment that keeps one attached to the identity that they lived and the people around them that they loved during life. When there's a negative ghost that sticks around, when there's one that is angry and hateful and just really attached to the desires that they can no longer experience, that existence is especially painful for the ego, the mental force, I guess you could say, that sticks around as the spirit, the life force, moves on into everything around it, and the soul moves on to another either incarnation or hopefully moksha, liberation, or enlightenment. But usually it's the soul moves on to a different incarnation and is reincarnated because based on what that person did in their life, there are certain lessons that we still need to learn, and that soul goes into a rebirth where those lessons will be learned, and the things that they didn't really understand in the life that they were in will allow to be played out in their new life and their new circumstances. Now, even people who are incredibly hateful and materialistic and fearful, they most of the time they move on as well to another incarnation on this planet, and based on whatever planet you're on, souls kind of attach themselves to different areas of a galaxy, universe, and multiverse. Of course, the multiverse saying you're always going to experience multiple levels of multiple universes, multiple dimensions, if you will. But there are different planets and areas within a galaxy and within a universe that souls kind of act out everything that they need to act out. It's possible to be incarnated in another planet on the other side of this universe, or many galaxies over. There's no really other side, but of this universe, but many galaxies over, it's possible. But usually souls want to act out what they need to learn, want to play a certain role in a particular area within a galaxy, within a universe. Now, it's it's very important while we live to understand that becoming attached and not letting go of those attachments and those desires and those fears upon death, there's a chance that our ego will become a ghost and not emerge back in. Even a lot of evil people their ego might not produce a ghost, may not become a ghost. There's just a number of factors that are multiplicitous, many that I am unaware of, but some that I am aware of, but it's very complicated. That's not a good answer, is it? Anyway, the main thing is to not produce a ghost, to not become a ghost, not have your ego stick around instead of merging back in to the source or merging back into that soul's memory, is to not be attached, to recognize that while you're in life, enjoy it, and try to understand everything that you desire, and either keep on pursuing that desire, and that's the hard way to do it because karma will come back at you and force you away from that desire and show you how painful it is to be attached to a certain desire or fear or hatred. Or you can realize, hey, this is what it's doing to me. I need to move on, and that produces a healthy mind, a healthy psyche that is able to move on. Because our psyche, our ego, these two things are very close together, if not the same thing, relies upon our focuses in life. Enjoy life itself, but do not become attached. Work through your desires if you haven't learned yet that they will bring you only pain or only suffering. But try to learn as much as you can while you're here, so that all of you can move on as it's meant to be. All of you can be reborn. Ego, spirit, and soul can have a healthy transition. There is something to be said with throughout your life understanding that ultimately everything is a part of the same thing. And it's easier for an ego to move on if it realizes that itself is just a piece of the grander whole, and everything is ultimately connected. If you believe in something like that, if you work those thoughts through your head on a consistent basis, it'll be easier for all of what you are to move on. And we of course move on in many ways because we have an emotional body, we have an intellectual body, we have an astral body, we have a causal body, and it's easier for everything to make a transition and either progress or regress and learn, then progress again, if we sever attachments, if we don't focus on desires. And if we single out what we're afraid of and why we're afraid of it, and decide that this fear is illogical and desire itself is illogical. Now, I'm not the kind of person that would say, okay, you're bad for having this or that desire. I just communicate the information that I think I know from my studies and from my meditations. I am by no means a prime example of how to not produce a ghost. I drink too much. I smoke. I'm still fairly addicted to sex. I do not put myself as an exemplar of what it is to be human and what it is to live a spiritually healthy human life. But I just feel that any information that I think I have, I need to pass on to all of you. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. It's just my understanding, and I first and foremost try not to be a hypocrite. I say that this is the way. I'm not following the way completely, but this is the way that I think everything works. So, I don't think I'm better than any of you. I'm just trying to explain how you can not produce a ghost and not have a part of yourself stick around and either bug people or you can protect people as a positive ghost, but ultimately it adds a chaotic element to the you can say psychic energy or magical force of this world, and every world. So it's better for everything to move on, to be reborn completely, and to merge back in. So hey, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been interesting. It's been kind of a weird video. This has been kind of a rant. I just kind of thought that I might share the information I think I have on this with you. And this is from mainly Hindu informational sources. Paramahansa Yogananda has talked quite a bit about the soul and the spirit and things like that, and a lot of what I think I know does not correlate with everything that he said. But Paramahansa Yogananda has some great books out there. His disciple Swami Kriyananda has wonderful books out there. There's Vivekananda has great books as well, and Vivekananda, I should note, says that ghosts do not exist. That is a fallacy. That is not true. And I think the way he was talking about it, I think that he was saying that they don't exist in the sense that we consider existence. We consider existence a little bit differently than some great master like us, Swami Vivekananda would. And another note I'd like to mention is that, there's a lot of asatru, a lot of pagan ideas have been thrown in here. And it's very important to try and incorporate everything that you learn, that if you think it's true, to try and work it through your understanding and try to pump out, a coherent system, even if it's an individual belief system that doesn't really believe everything like any particular group out there like mine. Try to make your inner working coherent, and so you can move on, so that you can move forward. Now, another thing I'd like to mention is that ghosts, if you have knowledge of them and what they are, they're more likely to stay away from you because they don't want to have their existence questioned. And you don't even have to necessarily question it physically, like by speaking or like by directing your will is important, but you don't have to say it by speaking like you don't exist. That's not what they're afraid of. They're afraid of the knowledge of attunement and attunement that one has that calls their existence into question. That's why a lot of great masters, ghosts just aren't around them, and since I've gained certain knowledge, I haven't been hallucinating nearly as much. Most of my hallucinations seem to run from me, if that makes any sense. For instance, in the film A Beautiful Mind, his hallucinations kind of kept at a distance once he realized that they weren't there, that they weren't real. And those weren't necessarily ghosts, those were something different, of course. Those were his psyche segmented. But anyway, with knowledge, comes power. And different beings, whether they be ghosts, spirits, the gods themselves, wights, land wights, or any kind of, infernal being, or you can say some nature spirits, all of these things respect knowledge. They will bounce off of your mind, and if they feel that you have the appropriate knowledge to understand them and repel them if necessary, or just to really question your own existence and as in proxy theirs, a lot of the time they'll stay away from you. Good spiritual connections that I try to make, like with Papa Legba, in some of my videos, there's been manifesting of light. And in one video I made recently that I didn't publish, there was a manifesting of light in a V shape. And I might go into that in another video. But these are more interdimensional connections, not necessarily Papa Legba's floating around in my room, but it's really like a window looking at you from a different dimension. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. I hope that I've explained to you how not to become a ghost. If you found this satisfactory, feel free to hit that thumbs up down there. If you want to make a comment, you want to say this sounds crazy, that doesn't make any sense, or this sounds great, I've never heard of this, feel free to shoot down in the comment section below. I try to respond to all comments. And if you want to support me on Patreon, I'd greatly appreciate it. And you go to www.patreon.com/darkrealist, capital D, capital R. And I only ask for $1 a month, but you can of course donate more. I share some of my YouTube videos there, some of my more instrumental ones, and some other stuff that I don't share on YouTube. But really, this Patreon is a way that you can just really appreciate what I do and donate to me if you wish. But that is not required, of course. I don't expect that from everybody. But hey, thank you very much for watching, and I hope all of you find yourselves and have a great day.